Hello. It has been a very long time since I did one of these, but obviously season 3 of Bridgerton drops tomorrow, so I had to do something, and I'm gonna admit that I got my maths wrong. And even though I'd been seeing Thursday everywhere, I was like, that'll be Friday in Australia. It is not. It is in fact Thursday. I've done it correctly. So that's why I'm here looking like an absolute train wreck after being at work for nearly 11 hours. It's great. But we're going to do this very quickly. I'm not going to do my makeup. I did it this morning. Looks like a train wreck now, but that's fine. We're going to get through this. I just thought I'd do a little episode to share my predictions. We're going to play a little game actually that I put together with some of my followers from Tumblr. We're going to play a game, see whose predictions are the most correct at the end of this season, and I'm going to share what I'm most excited about for this season moving forward. So very exciting, yes. Welcome to this episode of Tea in the Ton, I guess. I have a can of iced tea that is not iced because I just took it out of the cupboard because that's how prepared I was to do this episode. When I realised last night I was planning to film this on Friday morning before I went out and ran some errands, but it obviously has now occurred to me that it drops tomorrow night, not Friday, which kind of sucks because I'm going to be at work until at least 6 and then I've got a 30-minute drive home. So that's annoying because it comes out at 5 p.m. But that's fine, you know, such is life. I'm not going to be responding to any notifications. I am going to have my ask box turned off on Tumblr because I don't want any spoilers. I will open it back up again and let you guys know as soon as I've watched it. I just don't want any spoilers while I'm watching it. I want to be able to focus on the show, I guess. But anyway, I'm going to run through my predictions, and then I put together a little quiz for people that do follow me on social media. I put together a quiz for them to give me 5 of their crazy predictions for this season, and whoever does get the most things correct, and that's going to be drawn after the one in June. So I think I'll probably do one after like these 4 episodes, and then we'll do one in June as well. But what we're going to do is basically see who gets the most correct predictions, and then you're going to win a little prize. I made myself these Kate and Anthony shoes. Very cute. I customized them. So I thought maybe I'd put together a pair for whoever wins. Very exciting. They can look different. We'll chat. So I will probably do like a midway point one after I've watched these episodes, and then we will go from there. We'll see what's shaking. I think probably a lot of people have asked me if I'm going to do as I did for season 2, like episode by episode reviews. I'm not super sure yet. I think I want to see like what my opinion of the show looks like, because I don't know what it's going to look like. I have said before, I am not the biggest fan of the storyline in the book for this season. I do think it's going to be quite different. I think they've made quite a few steps. There's going to be some differences in that, but I'm not the biggest fan of where the storyline has ended up. I've spoken a lot about that. So I don't know what my opinion is going to look like is basically, and I don't want to, basically the point there, and I don't want to tie myself to doing something that's going to end up being really uncomfortable, I guess. So let's chat about what I'm looking forward to, and then we'll see what shakes out, I guess. So I have said a lot. I've been very outspoken about this, and I feel like I need to stick to my guns now, even though I don't really want to. But I've been very outspoken about the fact that I think that each season does need to focus on the main couple, and I think like going back on that now would be cruel. I don't even really want... I think I'm different from a lot of people in this respect, possibly, that I actually don't want a huge plot for Kate and Anthony this season. I don't want that because I think I have been a fan of Shonda Rhimes shows in the past, and I'm very scared because there are 2 storylines that she usually gives to married people, and those are infidelity and I guess loss of pregnancy or difficulty in that. And I'm not really interested in that. I don't think that's really the vibe of the show either. I think the show really wants you to invest heavily in this happily ever after. So I don't think that it makes sense for them to do something like that. So I don't really want to see anything like that. I really do just want to see the domesticity of it all. I want to see them in the background, like managing their lives and getting to actually live their lives together. And I think, you know, most of the reason for that is we didn't really get to see a lot of them happy or enjoying themselves in season 2. So I do want to see, I do want to see a lot of that, I guess. That being said, I think as well, like, I'm keeping my expectations very, very low. As you'll see from my predictions, they're not all about Kate and Anthony either, but I think like a lot of my content around this season is going to be Kate and Anthony based. That's where I think most of you know me from. It's probably where I'm most comfortable commenting as well. I have not reread the Romancing Mr. Bridgerton book since I read the original series. I haven't reread it for this, even. That shows you how lazy I've been of late. Even though I've been on a bit of a reading kick, I've not reread it for this. So I think I'm not like super comfortable commenting on that and giving like a comparison to the book, because honestly I don't remember it that well. I didn't particularly enjoy it, and I just kind of glossed over it and moved on. That was the like midway point of the books for me, and it was also the point where I was like, oh god, like, do you actually want to keep reading these? Like, I don't know. It just was a real lull for me. That being said, it could be because I already knew I had not read the book, before I watched the first season of the TV show. So I wonder as well how much of that for me was tied to the fact that I already knew the major plot twist, which was that Penelope's laid the whistle down. I don't know why I'm holding this like it's a sponsored video. It is not. I would love T2 to sponsor me, but they don't, nor should they. So I think really what I'm interested in is just the domesticity and all, and how those new, I guess how the dynamics are between like the Bridgertons and a new family member. We haven't really gotten to see that because obviously Simon wasn't present in season 2. And I think we got to see a little bit of it at the end of season 1, but very little of it because him and Daphne were obviously on the outs. And so I think that it's really interesting to see, and it's always interesting, this fascinates me in life as well. When people, like a family is so close-knit, it's always very interesting to see how they respond to like another person coming into this. So I think it's going to be very, that's one of the things I'm most excited to see, how that new dynamic sort of develops. And this is, I have a few questions for this. Lady Stanbury, shout out to them, has asked me a few questions, and the first of which is, which dynamics are you most looking forward to beyond Kate and Anthony themselves? Obviously that's the dynamic I'm looking forward to the most, and how Anthony is getting on with his new stepson Newton, clearly. But I think the dynamic I'm most looking forward to beyond them as a unit is how the Bridgerton family has adapted in a way to like this new person, particularly given that Kate is supposed to be taking more of a leadership role in that family as well. Like I think Violet is going to be, and it doesn't seem to be from any of the promo that we've seen, and that could be totally wrong, could be very misleading, but it doesn't seem that there's going to be any animosity between her and Kate, which I think is a good thing. But I'm very interested to see how Violet goes getting to step back from this role a little bit. You know, she's been, I mean, I still don't know from the TV show whether or not like Edmund's parents were dead in like when they married already. Maybe we'll find out this season, maybe we won't. But in the book, obviously Edmund has like brothers and sisters, and like, you know, there's a whole dynamic going on there, and his parents are very much alive well into Anthony's life, despite what the first page in The Viscount Who Loved Me has you believe. Continuity is a real issue here. So I'm not sure, but she has been, you know, in a leadership role in this family for at least 30 years at this point, you know. So it's always really interesting to see how someone adapts to not necessarily having to give that up, though in a way, yes, but also getting to give that up as well. You know, we all have moments in our life, I think, where we wonder, like, who would I be without this role that I have to play every day? And I think that's super interesting. So that's probably the thing I'm most looking forward to dynamic-wise. Storylines I'm looking forward to. I'm very interested in where Francesca's storyline is going. I think they even, like, if you've watched the first 5 minutes of the show, which the social media they've been posting everywhere, a link to it, so you can watch the first 5 minutes right now. And, like, there's a couple of jokes about how, like, Francesca's been playing the piano for years at this point, like all of those piano lessons in Bath sort of thing. Like, what are we doing? The reason that the door opened there, if you guys saw that, the cat came in. It's not like I don't have a ghost in my house or something. So they, I'm very interested in Francesca's storyline, because I think there seems to be a real difference in the way that she's being portrayed. She's very much, you know, and true to the books, very much quieter than the rest of her family. So I think that's going to be a really interesting dynamic. I think there's going to be a lot about Francesca potentially getting a spotlight. Like, in a way, Eloise was getting a spotlight she didn't want, but this is a different scenario again, which I think is going to be very interesting. I'm also very interested in a couple of you. I'm going to get to some of your predictions, because a couple of you had picked up on something that I have, like, not even thought about. I've not considered it. Yes, there's the cat. A couple of you have brought up something that, like, I hadn't even considered, but I'm very interested in how this dynamic between, like, Eloise and Cressida Cowper is playing out. Like, that's a very interesting thing, because I had assumed, and Cressida's storyline is going to be very interesting, because I had assumed, and I noticed that they've, like, we're going into the Cowper home, and I wonder if it's setting up for this thing. But many of us, so if you've read the, they posted a long time ago, even possibly pre-season 2, I believe, they posted a segment of the script from season 1 online, in which Lady Cowper has the same first name as Sophie's stepmother from the books. And so part of me wonders if they're bringing more of them in to sort of set up for this next season, possibly, which I would be very excited to see. What is that reflection on me? I don't know where that is coming from. That would be very interesting, but I'm very interested in what that storyline looks like. I'm also very interested in, like, so clearly Lady Danbury's brother is now in the show, and he's, I assume, going to have something for Violet. Like, this is like a twisted little web, because obviously Lady Danbury had some sort of relationship with Violet's father, and now Violet's having some sort of relationship with Lady Danbury's brother. I feel a little bit awkward about how this is all starting to play out. We can look for romantic relationships outside of our little circle, I feel, you know. Anyway. As we know, I am not a huge fan of that plot point from the Queen Charlotte show. I think my enjoyment of the actual Queen Charlotte show would have increased about 45-fold had that not been a plot point. Like, the way I hated it was something else. Sorry about that. I had a little technical issue. This is going to be a really weird cut now, but that's fine. Yeah, I just hated that plot point. I am interested to see how it develops, I guess. I do have a prediction about that. We'll see how it goes. But do we think we're going to get the intro of Terrible Shot Gregory? This is because, so if you've read Gregory's book, he is a notoriously bad shot. And I believe that there is a video of, a picture of him with a bow and arrow. And I kind of made the joke, like, please let this be the start of that. I would love to see it. I don't know if we're actually going to get that far, obviously, in the series. I would love for that, because, you know, Gregory, that's my second favorite book. I would love to get there. I don't know. I think it would be a very interesting plot point. I don't know how. We've seen like a lot of shots of like Gregory with a broken arm. Like, how does this happen? There's a lot of speculation about this. Does Hyacinth like push him down the stairs? I don't know. Is it a hot air balloon incident? A lot of you have speculated that in your predictions, so we'll see. A lot of the predictions, I'm very curious about this. A lot of the predictions are very similar, and if obviously there's more than one winner, I will choose the winner at random and we'll announce it on here. But I'm very curious. A lot of you have very similar predictions, so it should be very interesting. What domesticity would you love to see from Cantony? I just want to see them like really living their lives. I want to see them just like, I think it's very clear from what we've seen so far that like Anthony is very adoring of his wife. It's very sweet. And I think the really interesting thing about it is actually the fact that she's not like surprised by this in any way. She's not like uncomfortable by it. She hears this all the time, and I think that's very sweet, and I would like to see much, much more of that, obviously, because that's something that like during their, I'm going to say courtship, during their courtship, they didn't really get to do any of that. They didn't get to feel this openly, and I think it's really nice that they're so open about it now, because they can be. It's very sweet. This is really just not going that well. I would really love to see a lot more of them just living their lives together. I also have said a couple of times that I am really interested, and they've released that video about the set design this morning, which kind of proved me right. But I'm really interested in how they've integrated that. They've made a lot of changes in the like Bridgerton set design that I'm excited to see like Kate and Anthony's like personalities on display there, because it's, you know, it's no longer Violet's house really. And one of you actually predicted she was going to move out. I don't think that's going to happen. It did happen in the books obviously, but I don't think that's going to happen here, purely because I think that it's much easier just to keep everyone in one place for filming purposes, though that is always assuming that Kate and Anthony are going to be back for season 4. I don't know if that's going to happen at this point. That will be very interesting. Yeah, I that's really what I have said before. I said it earlier in this even. I don't really want Kate and Anthony to have a big plot, because I think that's only going to lead to disaster for them, and that's not really what I want to see from this show. This show has built its reputation on people getting a happily ever after, and I think like if we're then going to bring too much discontent into that in the future, like we're going to stop buying into it at a certain point, you know? And I think so. There's a couple of things. I've hedged my bets here a couple of ways. I'm going to read out my predictions, then I'm going to read out a couple of yours, and then we will see who's right. So my first prediction, I've got 5 predictions. My first prediction, Kate and Anthony are only going to be in 3 episodes, I think. I think 2 of those are going to be in part 2. I think they're only in 1 episode in the first part. And I think like, and the reason I'm saying this is because like even Daphne, there was plenty of excuses you could have had to bring her in more in season 2, and they were not utilized. Like she's, correct me if I'm wrong, not in the last episode apart from the epilogue, which seems like a strange choice. When you could have had, let me just move that mirror. That seems like a very strange choice when like there was ample reason she would be in London for the end of the season. Like that seems like a very, it was not that uncommon for women to like, I need to move this closer because I can't see without my glasses on. There was a lot of history to the fact that like women didn't necessarily attend the season with their husbands. So there was ample opportunity, it wasn't really capitalized on, and I think that's probably the main reason why I'm saying 3 episodes is it. My second one, and this is the one I've hedged my bets a little bit, so I think Francesca is going to marry John, and if there's a time jump in to the second part, John will have either passed away in the time jump or he will die in part 2. So I think we're only going to get John this season, and that's going to be it. I've said before that I feel like it's a mistake to bring John Sterling in too much, because it's going to allow people to invest in a relationship that, I guess, depending on where they cut the show, like, might not be forever. And that's not really the whole point of her story. And I think it would, particularly Francesca, I think it would be a mistake to change her story too much, because I think it's I don't necessarily know if Julia Quinn, like, meant to write it this way, but I think it's a beautifully written story about how, you know, moving on. Yes, we've changed angles again. I think that it's a beautifully written story about moving on after grief, and I think that it would be a mistake not to include that in this. It's very interesting to me that they're including this in Violet's storyline, which I don't disagree with, you know. I think a lot of what I said got a bit misconstrued in my Queen Charlotte review. I don't, like, not want Violet to move on. I just want it to be done in, like, a appropriate manner without Lady Danbury giving her advice based on her own advice with Violet's father. Like, what a strange little situation we've gotten ourselves into, you know? Like, no. I think it would be a mistake to change her storyline. Let me just get up my things, and I'm gonna have to try and log into Google and get your predictions up, because they're on my iPad, which I'm now filming from, which I can't do from my phone because it keeps crashing on me. So let me just get those bad boys up. But I think, yeah, like, I really do think it would be a bit of a mistake to change Francesca's storyline. So I do think we're probably only going to get John for this 1 year, and then that'll be it, you know. Let me see. I found it. I think it would be a mistake. That is not the one. I think it would be a mistake. I found it. It would be a mistake to change it too much. So I don't really want that. Why can't I see? One moment, please. There we go. I can see the responses now. Okay. I think it would be, yeah, an error in judgment. But that being said, this show is known for making errors of judgment. In my opinion, they make a lot of errors, i.e. most of the middle of the plot of season 2. But that's fine, you know, I am over it for the most part. My third prediction is that a mortified Bridgerton sibling finds their mother tending to her garden. I think that's definitely going to happen. I think it would be hilarious and a very missed opportunity if they did not, actually. So it's not something I want to see, but in a way, yes. I think number 4, Gregory and Hyacinth continue to meddle in everyone's affairs. I think that's, you know, gotta be said. I think they seem to be bringing them more and more into this storyline. So I think, again, it's a bit of a missed opportunity to not have that in a way. These are very vague because I obviously want to take my points where I can get them. I'm obviously not included in this prize run. But I think part 5, and I don't necessarily want to see this, but I do think it's where the plot is going, that someone else is going to end up taking up the mantle of Lady Whistledown, either in part or completely. Who that person is, I don't know. And a couple of you have made this prediction as well, and there's a few differing answers. It's really interesting. I'm going to read out some of my favorite predictions. There's Greg in the background, a sweet potato. This one from Grey Hello 22, I actually was gonna put in together as well, but I didn't in the end. But that's that Colin and Penelope will end up together by episode 4, and I think so as well. And the main reason is I think that they've left themselves a lot of work to do storyline wise. There are a lot of stories going on. Hey buddy, you just staring? Wanna come here? I think they've left themselves a lot of work to do storyline wise. There's a lot going on. And I think to actually tie all that together, they almost kind of need to get the Colin and Penelope of it all almost like out of the way so that they can move on to the rest of it. And I think like them figuring out what to do about this, the Lady Whistledown of it all, is actually going to become a big plot point, but for them as a couple, not necessarily pre them getting together. It's also very possible, I think, given the way this plot is going, that Colin is not going to find out she's Lady Whistledown until potentially they're already married. It's going to be very interesting how they play that off, because obviously there's a lot to unpack there with this whole Marina situation. And I think it would be a bit irresponsible of them, like, they have to address it in some meaningful way. It can't be left unaddressed. Yeah. A couple of you predicted this. So this one's from Plish927. And this is that Francesca will marry Michael. There's not going to be a John storyline. A couple of people said the same. And I think that's really interesting, because I think, it's possible. But I think that, one, they're combining storylines. Very possible, because maybe they're trying to cut down on the number of seasons. But I do think in a way, like, there's a real missed opportunity for a story they might not get to tell at another time. Yeah. Kate's going to be pregnant for part 2. That was a very popular one as well. That was a very popular one. There was one that I really wanted to go through. It's very popular, and I've made this assumption as well, but that Kate and Anthony are just going to go back to Aubrey Hall when they find out she's pregnant for, like, the for her confinement, I guess. That makes sense, I guess. I do think, though, and while it's obvious that that's where the plot is headed for them, I do think, though, that, like, it's a little bit strange in a way, because, like, there was such a big focus on the fact that like, whoever Anthony married was going to be the head of this family. They were really going to have to guide them through these seasons, and now they're just like, oh yeah, peace, we're going to go. That seems very out of character. This was a very popular, like, about 4 or 5 of you put this in, and I didn't pick up on this. I don't know if there's, like, an interview that I'm missing, but I think it does make sense now that someone's pointed out. But that's that Cressida is going to fall in love with Eloise, or one of you mentioned that potentially she was in love with Penelope all along. That would be a super interesting plot. And like I said, I am really interested in like how that goes moving forward, like how not like, but at how Cressida's storyline is going to be shaped this season, whether it is tied to Sophie or not. One of you predicted that Sophie was actually like Genevieve, like Madame Delacroix's stepdaughter, and like Sophie was actually the one making all these dresses, which, like, wild if true. I would love for that to, like, Someone has said here, someone has said that, that she was gonna, like, what was the one? Let me flick to the correct one. My apologies. There's one that Greg has a crush on the new Viscountess, and Anthony has very mixed feelings about his baby brother trying to charm his wife. I think that would be funny. I don't know if that's where this is going. Another one, like, yes, okay, so Madame Delacroix is really Araminta and Sophie's stepmother, and she has Sophie working like a demon, basically, to sew these dresses. Huge if true. Oh, I actually kind of want it to be that, because I think it would be really interesting and like a twist. But then I also don't know how I feel about Benedict also having slept with her stepmother, because they did have that thing in season 1. I really don't know how I would feel about that. It would feel very uncomfortable, I feel, for me as the viewer. We know how I feel about these weird family connections they keep trying to thrust in there. I don't know. I kind of want it to happen, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. So this person has predicted, and this was very interesting, Penguin Empress 7, has predicted that The audience will get to see Kate and Anthony on their second honeymoon. So I think we all know this. I don't think that's a spoiler at this point. But Kate and Anthony are going on a second honeymoon. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're going to. I think it's very possible, and they've said, you know, like, it continues to say that they think that Kate is going to be pregnant, and she's going to, it's going to give them an opportunity to discuss her family a little bit more. Sorry, my light's gone off. Discuss her family a little bit more and whatnot, and I think, like, that would be nice. But I also think that it's very possible that the only connection we're going to see, it's because the power bank's run out, it's because the only connection we're going to see is, like, maybe a passing mention of Mary and Edwina. Maybe. And I've said before, I do not want Edwina to be married to Friedrich. I do not want that. I think it goes against a lot of character development that they've already brought in for her. This whole episode is a disaster. I look very vampiric at this point. Someone has predicted here that what we think is going to be baby Edmund is actually going to be baby Charlotte. And that we'll see Nectar, the horse, again, and he's going to be Kate's horse. I think that would be, like, a cute little, like, there's Kate and Anthony boink in a closet at a ball. You will get 2 points if that happens. Actually, probably 0.5. It seems to be very likely at this point. Someone here has said, Elizabeth Bennet Darcy, love that name, has said that Penelope's going to marry Lord Debling, but he dies and then she marries Colin. That would be interesting. Oh, I kind of like that. I think it depends on whether or not there is a, it depends on whether or not there is a time jump and how far in the future that is. We don't know. I am going to predict right here, right now, yes, time jump. Otherwise, why split it into 2 parts? I don't think that makes much sense. Yeah. Anyway, that's some of your predictions. I will probably read through more of them in our review episodes, but I'm excited to see how it goes. Like I said, I will be closing my inbox probably from about 4 o'clock tomorrow. My time, obviously. About 4 o'clock my time tomorrow, I will be closing my inbox. I will probably not be interacting on there until after I've watched the show, but I'll let you guys know as soon as, and we can discuss whatever. Yeah. I might try and do an episode over the weekend. I'll try and do my review episode over the weekend. Let's be honest, I'm going to stay up and watch these episodes. I don't have to go to work on Friday. So I'm going to stay up. I might not even be going to work tomorrow. My assistant from the last couple days was homesick with COVID today, and now I have, like, a scratch in the back of my throat that might just be, like, hypochondria, but it might not be. So I've got a bunch of COVID tests to take over the next few days because the regulations, like, I work in healthcare, so the regulations are in Australia that, like, I can't go to work, but I also don't have to isolate. So, like, we shall see what happens. Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm excited to, like, finally, it's been nearly 2 years since we had a season, so I'm excited to, like, finally do that, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, I will check in with you guys. Thanks for joining me on this little episode. It has been a bit of a disaster. There's about to be a lot of weird cuts because my phone kept running out of memory. I was filming on that because it's closer to the ring light, which has now also died. So as I said, I was unprepared for this episode. Thank you for joining me, though. I am going to be putting out hopefully on Friday, part 1 of it was supposed to be a one-shot, but it's now a 2-parter because I overcommitted myself to things this week. But I'm going to be putting out the first part of my Weatherman, Anthony, Anchorwoman, Kate fic on Friday. So yeah, that'll be a nice little fun thing for us to do after we've watched these new episodes. So yeah, I mean, have fun, enjoy it, and we'll see you on the other side.